All right, Bob Starr, you were on Driven to Ride. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm great. Good to see you, Mark. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So you've been in the motorcycle industry basically your whole life. You're kind of a legend in the motorcycle world. But, in your own words, what do people most know you for? What's your claim to fame?
Yeah, when you say claim to fame, I hope people think of me as, a good husband and a good father. However, in the motorcycle industry, I really consider myself lucky. Lucky because I turned a passion of mine at a very early age, when I was probably 10 or 11 years old, into a lifelong career. And I've really, really enjoyed it. I've had a great time. I hope I've made a difference in the industry, and certainly to Yamaha over the years.
Cool. Yeah. Well, you said you kind of got into motorcycles when you were 10, 11 years old. How did you get into the motorcycling?
I don't know if I've ever told this story, and leading up to this discussion, I remembered it. I'm guessing I was 10 or 11 years old. I grew up in a very small town in New Hampshire. A number of people do know that. And I remember playing in the yard as a kid and hearing a motorcycle go by. It happened to belong to a local volunteer fire department member.
Okay.
And it was probably in the mid to late 60s, and it was a Triumph. I remember that. And he would go by, and I would always wave, and he would always wave back. And at that early age, I thought that was the coolest thing. The coolest thing to have a motorcycle. He had pipes on it, made a lot of noise, and as a kid, it was very influential to me. And I think it was at that time that I said, I want to have a motorcycle. So shortly after that, I got my first job. I was actually 12 years old, and I walked across the street from our house in New Hampshire and got a job at a chicken farm, and made very little, but probably one of the best jobs I had at the time. It taught me responsibility and respect, and I had to be at work every day. The chickens didn't stop laying eggs. I had to be at work every single day.
Right. And
I earned enough money to buy my first motorcycle when I was 12 or 13 years old, and I remember it fondly. It was a Benelli mini bike, and it was different than other mini bikes at the time because it had a 4-speed. It was an Italian-made motorcycle. It had a 4-speed with a clutch. A lot of other mini bikes at that time were based on lawnmower engines and so on.
Right.
And this was unique, and I rode it everywhere. My parents used to kid me because I rode around the house like a million times and had trails around the house and so on. But again, that's kind of really where my first love of motorcycling began, at a very young age, and there was no turning back from that period. After that bike, I ended up buying a Yamaha CT1. Basket case. It had been in an accident, and I bought it. It was all in pieces. The engine was together, but the frame it needed a new frame. And
right.
At a young age, I was not 16. I put it all back together and got it going as a good dirt bike for me. And that was my first Yamaha.
Wow. Okay, cool, man. Yeah, that's you jumped right in. So it sounds like you were pretty much hooked from the beginning.
Yeah, I very, very much was. I don't know how much my parents were for it at the time. In fact, the basket case CT1 that I bought, they were like, he'll never get it. He'll never put it together. And I did within a couple of months. And I remember it needed a lot of parts, and I got it. And again, like I said, there was no turning back from there. And it was, I was very, very passionate about it then, just as I am today. It's funny, when I would ride a motorcycle back then, when I was a teenager, it gave me a certain feeling, and that feeling, I can tell you, hasn't really changed in all these years. Every time I ride a motorcycle, it's the same feeling that I got when I first started riding it's over 50 years for sure.
That's cool. Yeah, that's pretty special that you still get that feeling every single time. I think a lot of people do that, myself included. So, but how did you go from, being a passionate motorcyclist to turning that into your career?
Well, as I said, my first job was on a chicken farm, and the family moved to a place in southern New Hampshire when I was probably 16. And I ended up getting a job at a snowmobile shop in the wintertime and a motorcycle shop in the summertime.
Okay.
And I would do 600-mile checks at the motorcycle shop in the summertime, which was fairly simple maintenance at that time, although everything had points. There was no electronic ignition, so this was a while ago. And I really, really enjoyed it. And on weekends, I would sometimes work on the sales department. I enjoyed that. And I went to college. I went to University of New Hampshire. Got my 4-year business degree. And I said, I'm going to still work. I'm going to work at the motorcycle shop. I became sales manager there for a short amount of time. And the district manager for another brand, not Yamaha at the time, got promoted. And he said, you ought to apply for this job in the industry. He says, I think you would really enjoy it. And long story short, I applied for it. I remember I flew down to New Jersey from New Hampshire and in my 3-piece suit and all ready. And I was hired. And I was hired as a district manager. And I covered the states of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And it was a terrific job. Again, it was a passion of mine. And I used to tell people, people used to ask, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I drive around all day and visit people I really enjoy and talk about the love of my life, which is motorcycling.
Nice.
And I probably did that for 3 or 4 years, and then did some sort of cross promotions in the area in New England, if you can imagine that. And California at the time saw that, and they brought me out to California and interviewed me for a marketing job. Again, this is for a different company, and they hired me. So I packed up my Saab and drove to California and haven't looked back since. I worked at that company for a number of years, then did a brief stint. We all know Matthew Miles. I worked with Matthew Miles at Cycle World for a short amount of time, and then began with Yamaha, I believe, 1992. So 32 plus years at Yamaha.
So how did you kind of get involved with Yamaha? Was it kind of a similar thing? They noticed what you were doing, or?
Yes. In fact, I credit a woman who just actually retired from Yamaha, had been there many years. We became friends when I was working at the other company. We became friends on the road doing events and so on. Mm-hmm. And she had said that her boss was moving to another position, and they needed somebody that had some good marketing experience. So I was hired, and I remember that my boss at the time, who was the senior vice president of Yamaha, said, well, we don't have a lot of new products coming at this time. So this was the early 90s. Okay. And, we need somebody with some creativity, because you got to take with what we have and try to, make some lemonade out of it. So he entrusted me to do that. And I went in, full speed.
Yeah. That's cool. And you've been there ever since. What is your official title right now?
So right now I am corporate communications manager. So for probably 26 years or so, I was marketing manager for Motorsports Group. Motorsports was motorcycle, ATV, side-by-side, and snowmobile. So those outdoor products. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was moved to corporate communications manager. So right now, I am overseeing all internal communications for the entire company of Yamaha Motor Corporation USA. So that involves all motorsports products, motorcycle, ATV, side-by-side, and then golf car, marine products, watercraft, wave runner, e-bike, everything that we do for internal communications, I'm responsible for. I'm also responsible for any kind of crisis management we have, and so on. It's funny story, not so funny, but during COVID, if you recall, at the very beginning, we shut down all of our factories, as did everybody at the very beginning of COVID. So we sent out a press release saying that out. It was my name, and my personal phone number, unfortunately, was on the press release. And so people were calling me, where's my boat? Where's my bike? Where's my golf car? And it was actually kind of fun because all these years I've enjoyed talking to customers from way back when I worked at the dealership.
Yeah.
And I still do. I still had fun doing that, even though they were challenged because they wanted their product. Again, if you remember during COVID, it was a unique situation for us in the outdoor recreation business, regardless whether it's motorcycle or marine products or golf car. You could go outside and spend it, quote, social distance from everybody and really enjoy what you're doing. I remember I used to ride my FJR 1300 during COVID all the time with a helmet on, knowing nothing can happen to me. And it was great. I really enjoyed it, as did our customers. So anyway, that's kind of what I do. So, and again, I'm in charge of all internal communications. So.
Okay. Are there any similarities between, maybe the customer base of motorcycles versus marine versus golf carts and side-by-sides, or are they all pretty different?
They're really, it's all of the customers, enjoy making memories with their friends and their families in the outdoors. So all of our products are outdoor products.
Right.
Other than that, the activity is different. There's an adrenaline rush, if you will, if you're riding a sport bike versus riding a motocross bike. And if you're on a golf course with your friends and you're having a really good game, it's a different adrenaline rush, but it's still it's that kind of a great feeling that you have. And again, I'm lucky because I work for a company that makes all these great products that can provide memories for our customers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you break it down, you're kind of in the business of having fun.
Precisely. That's why I've never looked back. What did I do with my life, with my career? I've had a career that I've been able to do that. It's been great.
Yeah. So you said you started, with Yamaha in the early 90s. Obviously, that was a couple decades ago. So you've seen just casual, no big deal. Yeah. But you've seen I'd say a monumental change in the motorcycle industry over those 30 plus years. What was that like? What are some major changes that you saw, over the years? Yeah.
Again, I really consider myself, tremendously lucky to be involved at this time. So there's a lot of moments that stick out in my mind and how the industry has changed, and particularly, at Yamaha. So I can look back. I'm not going to name names, but I can look back at where we had a meeting. It would have been 1997. We're in our boardroom. We had a Japanese engineer come in, and he wheeled a motorcycle in, and he says, "This is going to be the future of motocross." And I had a guy working for me in PR, a younger guy, and he dug his heels in and he said, "There's no way that's going to work." And what we were looking at was the YZ400M. It was a works one-off 400 four-stroke motocross bike that I don't know if you know the history, but that's the bike that Doug Henry took to win the Las Vegas Supercross in 1997. Yeah. And that was obviously one of many very big deals. So that was way back 1997. The following year, we introduced the production version, and Doug Henry took it to an outdoor national championship, the production version. So, I've seen things like that. The R1 was introduced the following year, 1998. The R6 was introduced in 1999. We also had the R7 in 1999. Limited, we brought in 50 of them. We raced it, in Superbike. And the growth, and also side-by-sides were introduced. We started the whole side-by-side trend. Performance ATVs were on fire during all of that time. Yeah. And we just So we were rocking and rolling, and the new products and the technology that was coming out at that time, it was such a cool thing to be there at that time in the industry. And I look back at it, and you know, with such great memories, and feeling so lucky to be there when all of this was going on.
Yeah. Do you have a particular memory from your time at Yamaha that stands out?
Oh boy, there's a lot of them. I'm going to tell you one. In fact, I was just speaking to Wayne Rainey about it a few weeks ago. The year was 2009.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you remember, so it's not that long ago. Well, it's
Yeah.
15 years ago. 2009, and the Indy MotoGP was happening. So I believe that was the first year there was a MotoGP that was held at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So that was a big deal. And the promoters decided to hold the famous Indy Mile once again, the mile dirt track event once again. And probably 6-8 months before the event happened, I get a phone call from Wayne Rainey. And Wayne says, I have a strange request. Your friend and mine, Kenny Roberts, would like to play the Celebrity Pro-Am golf tournament. Kenny's a very, very good golfer. Would like to play the Celebrity Pro-Am golf tournament in Monterey. And he's probably going to do really good. He would get television coverage and so on. And he needs to be sponsored. And it was a lot of money. And I went, what? You know, I wasn't corporate communications. I wasn't really involved with the golf car side of the business. So I thought, that's a strange request. So, and Wayne says, no, but he'll do anything. And I go, you know, what is he going to, well, he's going to wear a Yamaha jacket, you know, on the golf course. And I go, yeah, but, you know, it's Kenny, you know, and I said, okay, you know, what would he do? And Wayne says, you know, maybe you can get him to ride that Indy Mile bike. It's for those of your listeners that don't know, that's the TZ750 based Indy Mile bike that Kenny won the Indy Mile in the last few feet in 1975. At the start of Kenny's career. And so anyway, Wayne said, you know, maybe you can get him to ride that. And I go, would he really do that? And then I thought about it, and then I went, you know, it would really kind of be a cool thing. Obviously, if Kenny could come back, he's about 60 years old, so I don't know if he's gonna want to do that. And so Wayne said, let me talk to him. So long story short, Kenny said, okay. I went to my boss, and my boss says, you're crazy, but if you want to do it, okay. And so we put the deal together. Kenny is Kenny. There's a lot of other behind the scenes things that were going on, but we were there. So the event was on a Saturday night, and I remember Valentino Rossi was on our team at the time. Found out about it, and he as you know, he has a track at his home, and he loves the idea of riding a mile and so on. And so through his manager, he says, I want to ride that bike after Kenny rides it. And his management were saying, he's got a race to ride, he's got a MotoGP to ride the following day, blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's a big ask.
It's a big ask. And we said, okay, you know, you sure you really want to do that? Yeah, okay. So we get there, and the event was going to be during halftime, and the halftime got delayed because there's always on miles there's crashes and so on. It gets delayed, so we get to the point, and the crowd. I've been to many events with many big crowds, and this crowd was absolutely electric. They knew what was going to happen. They knew that the sound of that bike, it's a 752 stroke, was sounding like nothing else they had heard that evening, which was all V-twins. And Kenny, we got the bike started, and Kenny did a little bit in the front straight and turned around, and that was the plan. He was just going to, you know, do a little bit and wave. So he came around, and he's Kenny Roberts, and he came back after that, and then just did 2 laps wide open. 60 years old, wide
Wow.
open, sliding it sideways. And I thought, if God forbid he falls, it's on me. He didn't. He put on a show. He comes back in. Valentino comes up to me and goes, "I'm out. I don't want to ride it." But
Really?
you couldn't. You couldn't blame him, because here's a MotoGP, multi-time MotoGP world champion. Is he going to go faster on that bike than 60-year-old Kenny Roberts? I don't think so. On a dirt track, I don't think so. So he wisely decided that was it. So we made a video of it. I don't know if you've seen it. I'll send you the link afterwards.
Yeah, please do.
If you haven't seen it, Kenny, we interviewed Kenny, and he's very emotional in it. This is again after he ran the event. So he ran it he won it in 1975, and then just came back in 2009 to do the demonstration. But the backstory of how that all happened, that his friend Wayne Rainey kind of made it happen, people don't know. It's not in the video.
Right.
And it's kind of a cool thing. And I can close my eyes and look, and still to this day look up at the crowd, and you can feel. I can feel the energy that the crowd had, wanting to see this iconic man who did so much for Yamaha in his career, go out at 60 years old and whip that 750 two-stroke around the Indy Mile like he did.
Yeah.
So you have to see the video. It's too bad you haven't seen it yet, but I'll send you the link afterwards. But it's cool. So that I think, again, there's many things that my team and myself were responsible for. It's never just me. Some of the ideas, the kernel of the idea, I had this one happened to be, thanks to Wayne, and we just paid for Kenny to do the Pro-Am golf tournament. Sad thing is, the golf tournament got rained out, so Kenny never really got on TV and so on. Yeah. But he certainly rode that TZ 750 around the Indy Mile.
Wow, that's pretty insane, and it sounds like you've been able to make some good friends with a lot of these legendary racers and MotoGP people and World Superbike people. I mean, that's got to be pretty fun too.
Yeah, there's another thing you asked. What was some of the things I always I always liked to try to feel like I could get inside our customers' psyche and get inside their head and find out what motivated them the most to do any kind of marketing. I also always felt that for Yamaha to not necessarily take ourselves so seriously, the products that we're selling, as we said at the beginning of this discussion, they're fun products.
Right.
We're all about having fun. So I'm going to talk about another video that we did. And again, it's unfortunately there was no social media at the time. So this was probably, I may get the year wrong. This was probably 2009 or 10, also probably 2010. So again, 14, 15 years ago. And I always used to like to utilize the MotoGP riders where possible, because they have such a broad fan base. For all those that are following MotoGP, there's a lot of changes that even happened this morning. I'm not sure if you're following it, but there's lots of stuff going on, and there's millions of fans around the world. So the riders used to come we used to have a race in Laguna Seca, and I used to like to try to have them do something that would engage them, not only with the people that worked at Yamaha in California, but also with the Yamaha US fans. So this was the first time, and I had an idea for a video, and just the kernel of the idea was these riders are so high on a pedestal because they ride these motorcycles that are the top of the top. What if they really had real jobs like you and I did? And we put them in a situation where see, you're laughing already. If we put them in a situation where they had real jobs, we wrote this script where we put the riders in a place as if they have regular jobs at Yamaha. So at the time, it was Valentino, Jorge Lorenzo, Colin Edwards, and James Toseland. So we got them all to come to Yamaha US in California, and we put them in quote real jobs. So Colin was a security officer, Jorge was a janitor, James Toseland was a mailman, and Valentino was a switchboard operator. So if you've not seen that video, I can tell the way you're reacting. You've not seen that video.
No, but I can't wait to.
So again, this is a while ago, but before social media, we had like a million views. This is before social media, so it was just YouTube at the time.
Right.
I'll send you the link, but it's fun, and I guess looking back on my career, those kind of things, trying to in my mind, that was making a statement for the Yamaha brand that we didn't necessarily take ourselves so seriously that we can't show that we like to have fun too. Our products provide fun, and memories for our customers,
right?
And that's what it's all about. So
yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you've got a lot of fantastic memories, and from the looks of it in the background there, you've got quite a few mementos from your career as well.
Yeah, there's a number of things that I'm looking at a Valentino Rossi helmet. This is kind of cool. This is we talked about the Indy MotoGP. So a couple years after that, Ben Spies was racing for us, and this is a souvenir, if you will. So it's a titanium foot peg from an M1. Ben had a pretty nasty get-off. There's images of it. In fact, I think he just posted a video of it just a couple days ago. But okay. I've got a lot of memorabilia from over the years, and this clock is actually from Kenny Roberts' Proton effort. He gave me one of those. It's a carbon disc that he signed and so on, and he's measured the thickness and so on it. So it's pretty cool. But there's a lot of memorabilia over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So in your career, obviously, working with all of Yamaha USA, do you work with Yamaha of Japan at all? Have you ever been to Japan at the HQ?
Have I ever been to Japan, you asked? I've probably been 25 times.
Oh my God.
Probably.
Okay.
Maybe a little less, but not between 20 and 25 times. I was there recently in October of last year. So my role is corporate communications manager. So again, as I explained, I'm pretty well connected to a lot of the things going on inside the company for all product lines. And Yamaha has other corporate communications, teams around the globe. So we had a meeting for all corporate communications managers. And it's a great thing to do that, to go there and to compare notes and to compare things that worked and didn't work and so on. And so I did that, and then Yamaha asked me to go to the Tokyo Mobility Show. The Tokyo Mobility Show used to be the Tokyo Motor Show. It's morphed into the Tokyo Mobility Show. It runs every 2 years. So this past year it ran. We showcased a lot of new technology and new products. Motoroid 2 was shown there. I can send you a picture if you want, but Motoroid 2 is a very, something down the road a bit. It has facial recognition. It balances itself. It's kind of showcasing Yamaha's technical capabilities, if you will.
Sure.
So the other thing in Japan at the factory, you've probably seen, but we have a what's called a communications plaza, which is, for all intents and purposes, a museum at our factory. And from YA1s to M1s, it has everything in it. And the great thing when I go, the displays are rotating, so they change from year to year to year. In fact, it's not there now, or it wasn't there the last time, but as you know, Yamaha kind of had a 5-valve technology that we had it in the R1 and YZs for for a while. We've since found that there's other technology that works perhaps a little bit better. But in this communications plaza for a while, there was actually a 7-valve cylinder head there for a while. That they tried that. It obviously didn't work as well because there's too many moving parts, on the top end. But going to Japan, I love it, and I love the people, the countryside. It's just so enjoyable to go.
Yeah, is the motorcycle community or the motorcycle world different in Japan compared to the U.S.?
Well, yes, and it's changed a lot. I used to go. Well, I've been going in the 33 years I've been working at Yamaha. I've been going. The sport bike market in Japan has evolved perhaps more so than it has in the U.S.
Really?
The U.S.
Okay.
There's still a lot of sport bikes, not anywhere near as many as were sold in the 15, 20 years ago. But in Japan, that seems to be gone.
Okay.
It seems to be there's nothing. I mean, there used to be small CC size sport bikes in Japan, and it doesn't seem to be anywhere near what it used to be, and it almost evaporated.
Wow.
In the U.S., so we're finding for us, our R7 is selling terrific right
now.
In fact, we just had one of the best months ever last month during the month of May for retail. So the R7 and the T7 are doing extremely well. And that kind of signals a shift in sport bikes. Obviously, there's still a tremendous interest in it, but it's changed. I think you find that people don't necessarily want to spend, or do they have the resources to spend $20,000 on a sport bike? Where an R7, it's a little bit over 10.
Sure.
That's and it's great looking, terrific looking. The performance is really good, and consumers are buying that, and that's good because for me, there's so much talk about people spending time on smartphones and so on. To get out on, there's nothing like getting out on a motorcycle. I said at the very beginning of this discussion, when I was a kid, I really got to experience that sensation you get when riding a motorcycle, and it's absolutely identical feeling for me today as it was 50 plus years ago. And I feel really good about that. I feel really encouraged about that sales of smaller sport bikes are going terrific. It's not what we would like it to be necessarily. It's not what it was 15, 20 years ago, but it's encouraging to see that it's strong.
Yeah, no, I mean that R7 has definitely caught my eye a few times, and I think there's plenty of power there for the average consumer, as it were.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Wayne Rainey again, because what he and his team have done with Moto America is just tremendous. There's a race Brainerd is this weekend. Make sure you watch it. I watch every race.
Sure.
And the Twins Cup is so exciting, and there's so many different brands in it. It's absolutely terrific to watch, and the R7, it's a 2-cylinder. But it's to me, it's no less and maybe even more exciting to watch that than the other classes.
Sure. And speaking of, 700, 750cc motorcycles, you've got a pretty special 750 in your garage, right?
Yes, I do. Again, for me, really getting involved in the industry when I was in college a bunch of years ago, I was riding an awful lot. Not that I'm riding not riding a lot now. I'm not riding as much as I used to when I was in college.
Sure.
So I a few years ago, I said, I got to have a bike from that era of my life, because motorcycles have been my life. So the bike that I always really wanted was an XS750. And the first year that Yamaha introduced that bike was 1977. It's called a 750D model. And a very funny, so I went online to find one. A very, very funny story is the one I ended up buying was not running the gentleman who I bought it from told me it wasn't running, but we got it running and it runs great. Mm-hmm. The great case of a small world, the bike I bought it in the same town I grew up in New Hampshire.
No
And the
way.
town was a tiny little town of under 1,000 people, and this gentleman happened to live in this same town. So 40 plus 45 years later, I went back to the same town and bought this 750 Yamaha. But it's a 1977 750D. We only
Hmm.
made it for like 6 months, and then we changed it. It has a 3-into-1 exhaust system and points, and we changed
Hmm.
it halfway through and did a 3-into-2 exhaust, and it had electronic ignition. But I don't really ride it that often because it's 100% original. It runs terrific,
Wow.
and I enjoy it. I show it to everybody that comes to the house. I show it, and think, oh man, it looks it looks typical, standard motorcycle, standard RD type styling from
Right.
the era. And I really enjoy riding it. It's a great throwback, but it's basic. It's a 3-cylinder. It has kickstart. It's easy to kickstart. It does have electric start, but it's
Hmm.
1977 750 Yamaha.
It's pure raw motorcycling in that
Yes, it
machine.
is. Yes, it is.
How many miles are on it?
Just a little over 10,000. To be honest, I don't
Oh, wow.
put much more than 300 or 400 miles a year on it. I don't like to do that.
Sure.
But my normal bike's an FJR 1300, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah. So obviously that's, a big sport touring bike. Do you do a lot of touring and traveling, like on that FJR?
To be honest, I don't. I'm still traveling a lot for Yamaha.
Sure. Sure.
My next event I'm going to is, the whole company is doing it. So again, this is my role within the company. We're doing an event called Skills USA,
Hmm.
which is a event. It's held in Atlanta, and it's for college age kids that aren't going to go to college but want to learn and excel at a trade other than something you would learn in college, or you would go to
Sure.
college
Yeah.
for. So
Yeah.
so our motorcycle, ATV, golf car, and marine groups all go to train technicians for the future, which we can use. But this event has, excuse me, you can learn to be a sommelier, waiting on tables,
Oh, wow.
telling
Okay.
them what kind of wine to order. You can be a chef. So this is a great event. So I'm going to help at that event. So I'm still traveling around a lot, but I don't get a chance to ride as much. So maybe when I look forward to retirement, I'll be riding a little bit more.
There you go. Yeah. Well, kind of looking to the future a little bit, and obviously you probably got to play it a little bit close to the vest, but where do you think the future of motorcycles is going? I mean, where e-bikes are becoming a thing, like electric motorcycles, there's Moto E, obviously e-bicycles are a thing. Where do you think that's going?
So I'm not really good at determining the future. However, as I guess I've said all along that the feeling of riding a motorcycle is clearly a unique feeling.
For
And
sure.
whether your power is internal combustion engine or some other source,
Mm-hmm.
to me, the feeling will be the same. I'm kind of old school.
Sure.
I like internal combustion engines. I like to there's a feeling you get. That engine's running. I know what's going on inside that engine.
Right.
Here's one of the things. So this is a piston from a YA1. It's the very first motorcycle that Yamaha made. Factory made some commemorative pistons.
Wow, that's cool.
So this is the first model motorcycle, 1955. This is 2-stroke piston. Looks like. I like to know that these are going up and down inside the piece of aluminum underneath me that's making it go forward.
Right.
That's not to say that some other alternative power is going to be in the future. I think it's going to be a blend of all kinds. Mm-hmm. Whether we stay with internal combustion engine, whether it's some sort of hybrid or hydrogen power or electric, the feeling will never change of what the enjoyment of riding a motorcycle.
Yeah, and I think that's an optimistic way to look at it because, again, you're chasing that feeling, and obviously the noise and the vibration of the engine is a big bonus, but it's that feeling of freedom on two wheels. I think that is universal.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends that do ride electric motorcycles,
Okay.
and they feel that same feeling. For me personally, again, like I said, I like that feeling below me of
For
the engine.
sure, for sure. The last question for you. Obviously, you've been involved with motorcycles your whole life. You've been a lifelong rider. You still love that feeling just as much. What makes motorcycling so special for you?
What makes it so special? Again, as I've said, it's that feeling of riding. Plus, I haven't really talked about this. The people that I have met
Hmm.
along in my career, I can truly call them friends, and they're not work associates. They're friends. And I'm truly, blessed and lucky to have had that throughout my career, to have that amount of friends, and to have those people that I can call friends. And it's a unique type of friendship. Excuse me. It's a unique type of friendship that you have, that we all have in the industry. I know you're connected with Matthew Miles.
Yeah.
I worked with Matthew 34, 35 years ago. Matthew and I have been friends ever since. And I think um, that's a unique characteristic of our industry. And I think anybody that you talk to, I mentioned, I saw you interviewed Sarah Schulke a little while ago. I've known her
Yeah.
for the same amount of time. It's a unique and special bond that we as members of the motorcycle community enjoy, that I don't know how many other groups can say that. And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that I enjoy the most.
Yeah. I mean, in my limited, experience of being in the motorcycle industry and talking to people from all over the motorcycle world, I have not met one person that I have not like clicked with and that has been like overly friendly. It's kind of like disarming at first, where it's like,
I know.
everybody's really friendly and wants to do everything. Like, okay, like what's the joke, or where's the other shoe going to drop? But it's not like that. Everybody is like super genuine, super friendly, inviting. It's very inclusive, and it's been very nice to enjoy that.
I've also found that, throughout the years, Yamaha certainly has had many champions, excuse me, racing for us,
Yeah.
whether on road or off road. And, I've, have a lot of friends throughout that. And, the unique thing is that we can remain friends, even though maybe they're not riding for us anymore.
Hmm.
It's that special bond that keeps you together and that keeps you friends regardless of what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
it's a unique thing, and we're
it's the
lucky. We're really lucky. I feel really lucky that I'm
yeah.
part of this community.
Yeah, it's really the people that make it, and the love of motorcycles that brings everybody
Yeah, I'll tell
together.
you. We have time for another little story, and
Of course, yeah.
So this goes back a ways too, and like I said, I feel like I've been lucky because I always try to take the Yamaha brand to different places such that we would know and understand our customer best.
Hmm.
So I'm going to take you back to 2006, and I was in charge of marketing for Yamaha US, and it was the final MotoGP event of the year. And I don't know if you would recall, but it came down to Valentino Rossi winning another world championship, or if for some reason he had trouble at the last race, which was in Valencia, Spain.
Hmm.
If he had trouble, then the winner would be Nicky Hayden.
Okay.
So I used to prepare ads for Cycle News. Cycle News at the time was only print, and we would have to commit to space the week before. This was old days.
Okay. Okay.
And we'd have to have the material ready on Sunday night of a race
Oh,
weekend.
geez. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not what it is now, where it's all. So I thought about it, and I said, Valentino wins. We'll prepare an ad. Valentino wins X number championship. if he doesn't win, we could prepare an ad for an R1 or something. And I thought about it, and I went, if he doesn't win, a kid from the heart and soul of America is going to win a world championship. His lifelong dream, Earl's son is going to win a world championship. So I said, I think I want to, if Valentino doesn't win, I think it would behoove our company to do something for Nicky.
Sure.
And I went to my boss, and he says, "You're crazy." And I said, no, I'll do it. It'll all right. Again, like he said, for the Indy Mile thing, he says, whatever. I had a great boss at the time.
Yeah.
And so I remember listening to the race. There wasn't, there wasn't the kind of, you couldn't watch it online at the time.
Right.
And hearing that Valentino fell, and which meant Nicky won which meant Nicky won. We had prepared. I told the agency, so we had prepared 2 ads. We had prepared an ad for Valentino to win, and then we prepared an ad for if Nicky won.
Sure.
So Nicky won, and I'll send you a link, but I have it.
Oh, really?
This is the ad.
That's classy. Yeah.
So it didn't say the brand that Nicky was riding.
Right.
It had our logo, and it just said, "Congratulations to Nicky." And again, there was not much. The social media wasn't really existent, but the letters to the editor in Cycle News the following week blew me away.
Really?
And again, what I said before is that at Yamaha, we really try to understand the customer best. So we're trying to sell R1s and R6s and all of our other products to American consumers.
Right.
And American consumers are fans of the good old boy from Owensboro, Kentucky.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace. And so we did that, and that was kind of one of those things. I look back on my career, and I went, "Yep, that was the right thing to do." And it's funny because Nicky and his 2 brothers, Tommy and Roger Lee, would always come to Anaheim Supercross every year, and for every year until he passed, he would always come up to me and say, "I want to still thank. I know you. I say it every year, but thank you for doing that ad. It really meant a lot to me." Yeah. Because that was Yamaha speaking to him. That was another brand of motorcycle saying congratulations.
Yeah.
So that meant more to him than almost anything. So that's maybe cut and splice, but that's another thing that I feel like we try to understand the customer best and show that Yamaha wasn't so full of ourselves, so we could do something like that was an industry thing, speaking to the American consumer.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'd say that's a perfect story to end on, and thanks for making Yamaha and motorcycles cool and keeping them cool. And
again, I'm not taking. I don't want to take all the credit. There's always been a team behind me.
Sure.
That's helped out. But I've just been doing what I love. And like I said at the beginning, I'm so very lucky that I've turned a passion of mine from when I was 11 or 12 years old into a lifelong career.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you sharing your stories with us. And can't wait to hear some more next time.
My pleasure. Anytime.
All right. Thanks, Bob.
All right. My pleasure.